Hello and welcome. My name is Nate from Video Games Recon, and in this second part and finale video of my top 20 upcoming games of 2016, we're going to count down my top 10 most anticipated games. Also, if you haven't seen part 1, there will be a link on screen now and in the description. Okay, so as stated in the other video, most of the games in this list are confirmed for release in 2016, and if not, are rumoured or likely to be. And all dates are subject to change. And this list will feature games from all platforms, including ones I don't currently own for parity's sake. And of course, if your most anticipated game isn't in this list, instead of raging out about it, why not post the games you're most looking forward to in 2016 and beyond? Anywho, that's enough housekeeping. Without any further ado, let's do it to it. 10. Final Fantasy 15. There seems to be a bit of a theme here with the whole delayed games finally arriving in 2016 after suffering development difficulties. And Final Fantasy 15, formerly Final Fantasy Versus, development issues are well documented. And although, as previously discussed, I'm not overtly hyped for this game due to I feel it catering more towards a different and new demographic as opposed to old school RPG fans such as myself. I still think this will be a good and enjoyable game. It strikes me more like an ARPG or grown-up Kingdom Hearts, which is no bad thing. But its ridiculous development time and it not seeming a more traditional RPG experience, particularly in the battle system, limits my hype personally. That said, it still made it into the top 10 and I will almost certainly be getting this game. 9. Cuphead. This game has charm written all over it. Set in a 1930s cartoon art style, this 2D run and gun platformer looks awesome, and that's from someone who isn't usually into this sort of game. Combine its aesthetic and gameplay in with a cute, interesting and mildly disturbing story about repaying a debt to the devil, and I think we're onto a winner here. I'd be surprised if this isn't in the running for Indie Game of the Year. My only hope is that it also comes to PC, as like previously stated, I don't own an Xbox and this game looks too good to miss. 8. Mass Effect Andromeda. I know, only number 8. What can I say? I've never actually played a Mass Effect game. I know, shame on me. I can almost hear the boos and hisses coming through the screen. Not much excuse really, just one of those things that pass me by. That said, what little we know of this game sounds interesting, and they seem to be taking a leaf out of Bethesda's book and keeping tight-lipped and a short time period from announcement to release, which in my opinion is the way to go. All this adds to the excitement, and even though I'm not as excited as a fan of the franchise, I am very interested in how this game will turn out, and I guess it gives me an excuse to try the copy of Mass Effect 2 sitting on my PS3 thanks to PlayStation Plus, before Mass Effect 4 comes out. 7. Detroit Become Human. Now, we know very little about this game, aside from the super cool CG trailer we got to see at Paris Games Week. We don't even really know how the gameplay is going to work, or if this will be a 2016 or 2017 release. But with that whole escaped android AI storyline and trying to adapt to find her place in a world of humans when all the other androids are merely seen as items, throws up some interesting philosophical questions about what defines a sentient life form. And seeing the game played from the outside in, with the protagonist being an android and possibly with the humans being the bad guys, is a novel twist that certainly has whet my appetite, even if we don't really know how the game itself will play. Definitely one to watch though. 6. Nintendo's Codename NX and PlayStation VR. Okay, so I'm kinda cheating on this one as neither are games, but I would be remiss if I didn't give these two new pieces of tech a shout out, as the PlayStation VR is expected to release summer of 2016 and the Nintendo NX is likely to be released in the fall of 2016. And although we don't know many if any of the games from Nintendo, or even how the supposedly revolutionary tech will turn out, at least PlayStation VR seems to have a bevy of games to be released if PSX was anything to go by. And although both could quite possibly fall flat on their faces and bomb, new tech is always exciting, and Nintendo rarely makes a bad first-party game, and virtual reality has captured the zeitgeist at the moment, and is a very interesting prospect indeed, even for someone like me who suffers from motion sickness. Let's just hope their new hardware won't cost the earth upon release. 5. Horizon Zero Dawn. This PlayStation exclusive, brought to us by the guys who made Killzone, came out of nowhere at E3, with its lush, post-apocalyptic open world and seemingly Tomb Raider meets Far Cry 4 meets Gears of War gameplay, and an almost Final Fantasy-esque style aesthetic. Probable crafting, a sort of future prehistoric theme. Oh yeah, and did I mention the robot dinosaurs? No? Well yeah, that's a thing. It will be interesting to see what this developer can do now that it's no longer being forced to make Killzone games that seemingly only a hardcore fanbase was into. 4. Yooka-Laylee. Alright, this game may seem kinda goofy and way too high up this list for some people's taste, but this spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie has officially pulled up at Hype Station and is calling all to board the hype train back to a simpler time, when games weren't so serious or pretentious and instead asked you to roam through worlds with, say, a giant bird-like companion, be they linear or open worlds, in order to collect gems, bananas, rings, do missions for greedy fucking bears, and often in the end save a kingdom or a princess or whatever the fuck. Does it really matter? It's just straight up simple fun that doesn't take itself too seriously. And although back in the day I thought I was done with this sort of game, long enough of a time period has passed, so what was old has become new again, and makes for a very welcome change of pace compared to all these games these days that take themselves way too seriously. 3. Zelda. When this game got announced, it was one of the few times I was jealous of anyone who owned a Wii U, as a truly open world Zelda, as by today's standards, is a very tantalising prospect indeed. However, not so jealous now, as Wii U owners might get stiffed, in place of making the new Zelda game a Nintendo NX launch game, which would suck. But my guess is it will be on both platforms, as if they spit in the face of Wii U owners and then ask them to buy an NX, I don't expect things to go well. Anywho, this game looks beautiful, and, well, it's a Zelda game, so it's not likely to suck, is it? 2. No Man's Sky. There are two reasons as to why this game's not number 1 on my list. The first is, the game at number 1 means a lot more to me, and the second is, this game is starting to suffer from hype fatigue, and putting it number 1 for me would only add to that. But this game's potential scope is near limitless. The sky's the limit. Okay, bad puns aside, this game is so big it is near incomprehensible. Many planets within a solar system, many solar systems within a galaxy, many galaxies within the universe, and on each planet all the things on it will be procedurally generated. On top of which we get to discover things that no one has ever seen, possibly even including the developers themselves. And no less name them whatever the hell we want. I wonder how many species are going to be named after penises. Anywho, no game has ever tried to be this ambitious, and I just hope it pans out. As although all that sounds infinitely cool, the question still rings out, is there a game in there somewhere, as opposed to just a cool looking universe and some things to discover for a couple of hours before the whole thing gets boring? It could truly be a quantum leap, a new epoch in gaming, or it could just be a nice idea that never really panned out. Personally, I have faith that this is going to be something special, even though the odds are stacked against it. It's just a matter of reeling back your expectations a little bit is all I think we'll need to truly appreciate this game. Before we get into my number 1 most hyped game, let's review the game so far and discuss some honourable mentions that narrowly missed the list either due to personal preference or being unlikely for release in 2016. So if you've not seen part 1, now would be a good time to go back and check it out. Otherwise, spoiler alert. 20. Uncharted 4. 19. Doom 4. 18. The Division. 17. Gravity Rush 2. 16. Mirror's Edge 2. 15. Neo. 14. Dreams. 13. Gears of War 4. 12. Quantum Break. 11. The Last Guardian. 10. Final Fantasy 15. 9. Cuphead. 8. Mass Effect Andromeda. 7. Detroit Become Human. 6. The Nintendo NX and PlayStation VR. 5. Horizon Zero Dawn. 4. Yooka-Laylee. 3. Zelda. 2. No Man's Sky. Honourable mentions in no particular order are Ni no Kuni 2, Firewatch, Dishonored 2, Mafia 3, Far Cry Primal, Hitman, Cyberpunk 2077, Kingdom Hearts 3. And finally, my number one most anticipated game of 2016 is Final Fantasy VII. I know, wishful thinking that it will be released in 2016, right? Well, maybe not, as one of the lead developers released information in an interview shortly after PSX that the Final Fantasy remake will be a multi-part series. What exactly that means is still up in the air at the moment of recording. As to whether that refers to an episodic type release, think more akin to a Telltale game or Square Enix's Life is Strange. Or a larger experience is more akin to the Final Fantasy XIII series. If the latter, a 2017 release is more likely, but if it's episodic, it could quite easily mean a 2016 release, especially as the game is being built in the Unreal Engine instead of a proprietary Square Enix engine, which as far as I can remember is unheard of, and both worrying and commendable in equal measure. Worrying because it seems a lion's share of the development is being made by CyberConnect, as opposed to being in-house development by Square Enix, which is worrying as CyberConnect's past lineage is mostly anime-style fighting games instead of vast JRPGs. On the upside though, it's commendable as Square Enix seems to spend more time making engines for games than they do making the games themselves. And I've been saying for a while now that they should just reuse engines every now and then. Square's problem in general is that they tend to throw the baby out with the bathwater and build a game from the ground up every time instead of iterating upon successful titles. It's a little surprising to me though that they didn't reuse the same engine as Final Fantasy 15, instead of opting for Unreal 4. But I suspect that's because CyberConnect would be more familiar with the Unreal Engine and it would increase their workflow. As if left to Square to complete Final Fantasy VII in one game with a new engine and their track record, it would take an age to come out and we'd be looking at a 2019 release at the earliest. So, not sure how I feel about all this. What Square giveth some one hand, it taketh away on the other. For me, the most worrying thing about the remake is the battle system. I get that we were never going to get the same turn-based ATB bar from the original, but this looks an awful lot like the Final Fantasy 15 battle system, which personally I'm not in love with. But I've got a feeling there's going to be hidden depths of complexity within the battle system to make it more methodical. As if there's not, you're damn sure going to hear me bitching and whining about it come release. So, as for now, although there is cause for concern, I've decided to be cautiously optimistic about this remake, as the original game meant so very much to me, and is quite probably the reason I'm into games as much as I am, and thus likely why this channel even exists in the first place. As prior to this, there were games that meant a lot to me, particularly on the Genesis or SNES, but Final Fantasy VII was the first game that made me think that games could be more than an arcade game, platformer or god sim, and could have engaging stories and characters, complex, thoughtful gameplay, and furthermore, to truly feel engaged and immersed in a world brought to life. Final Fantasy VII captured my heart and is quite possibly the biggest milestone in gaming for me, and I would guess a lot of other people feel the same. It taught me that games could be more, even an art form in their own right, so no pressure for the remake Square Enix and CyberConnect. As if you somehow managed to screw up Final Fantasy 15 and the Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy as a franchise will pretty much be dead in the water. So yeah, no pressure, no pressure. Anywho, that was my list of most anticipated games of 2016. Finally, we're starting to get those games that epitomise a generation of hardware and really make your investment in a console or new PC components worthwhile. 2015 was a good start, but I think we can all agree that 2016 is going to be a monster year for gaming. So with that, feel free to hit me up with what your top games for 2016 are and why. As per usual, this just leaves me to say if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share and subscribe for more BS of a similar nature. Thank you and goodbye.